Reserved constituencies. Our Constitution entitles every citizen to elect her his representative and to be elected as a representative. The Constitution makers, however, were worried that in an open electoral competition, certain weaker sections may not stand a good chance to get elected to the Lok Sabha and the state legislative assemblies. They may not have the required resources, education, and contacts to contest and win elections against others. Those who are influential and resourceful may prevent them from winning elections. If that happens, our parliament and assemblies would be deprived of the voice of a significant section of our population. That would make our democracy less representative and less democratic. So, the makers of our constitution thought of a special system of reserved constituencies for the weaker sections. Some constituencies are reserved for people who belong to the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. In a SC reserved constituency, only someone who belongs to the scheduled caste can stand for election. Similarly, only those belonging to the scheduled tribes can contest an election from a constituency reserved for ST. Currently, in the Lok Sabha, 84 seats are reserved for the scheduled caste and 47 for the scheduled tribes as on 26 January 2019. The number is in proportion to their share in the total population. Thus, the reserved seats for SC and ST do not take away the legitimate share of any other social group. This system of reservation was extended later to other weaker sections at the district and local level. In many states, seats in rural, panchayat, and urban municipalities and corporations, local bodies are now reserved for other backward classes as well. However, the proportion of seats reserved varies from state to state. Similarly, one third of the seats are reserved in rural and urban local bodies for women candidates. Voters list. Once the constituencies are decided, the next step is to decide who can and who cannot vote. This decision cannot be left to anyone till the last day. In a democratic election, the list of those who are eligible to vote is prepared much before the election and given to everyone. This list is officially called the electoral roll and is commonly known as the voters list. This is an important step for it is linked to the first condition of a democratic election. Everyone should get an equal opportunity to choose representatives. Earlier, we read about the principle of universal adult franchise. In practice, it means that everyone should have one vote and each vote should have equal value. No one should be denied the right to vote without a good reason. Different citizens differ for different citizens differ from one another in many ways. Some are rich, some are poor, some are highly educated, some are not so educated or not educated at all. Some are kind, others are not so kind. But all of them are human beings with their own needs and views. That is why all of them deserve to have an equal say in decisions that affect them. In our country, all the citizens aged 18 years and above can vote in an election. Every citizen has the right to vote regardless of his or her caste, religion, or gender. Some criminals and persons with unsound mind can be denied the right to vote, but only in rare situations. It is the responsibility of the government to get the names of all the eligible voters put on the voters list. As new persons attain voting age, names are added to the voters list. Names of those who move out of a place or those who are dead are deleted. A complete revision of the list takes place every 5 years. This is done to ensure that it remains up to date. In the last few years, a new system of election photo identity card, EPIC, has been introduced. The government has tried to give this card to every person on the voters list. The voters are required to carry this card when they go out to vote so that no one can vote for someone else. But the card is not yet compulsory for voting. For voting, the voters can show many other proofs of identity like the ration card or the driving license. Nomination of candidates. We noted above that in a democratic election people should have a real choice. This happens only when there are almost no restrictions on anyone to contest an election. This is what our system provides. Anyone who can be a voter can also become a candidate in elections. The only difference is that in order to be a candidate, the minimum age is 25 years, while it is only 18 years for being a voter. There are some other restrictions on criminals, etc., but these apply is very extreme cases. Political parties nominate their candidates who get the party symbol and support. Party's nomination is often called party ticket. Every person who wishes to contest an election has to fill a nomination form and give some money as security deposit. Recently, a new system of declaration has been introduced on direction from the Supreme Court. Every candidate has to make a legal declaration giving full details of serious criminal cases pending against the candidate, details of the assets and liabilities of the candidate and his or her family, and educational qualifications of the candidate. This information has to be made public. This provides an opportunity to the voters to make their decision on the basis of the information provided by the candidates. Educational qualifications for candidates. Why is there no educational qualifications for holding such an important position when some kind of educational qualification is needed for any other job in the country? Educational qualifications are not relevant to all kinds of jobs. The relevant qualification for selection to the Indian cricket team, for example, is not the attainment of educational degree but the ability to play cricket well. Similarly, the relevant qualifications for being an MLA or MP is the ability to understand people's concerns, problems, and to represent their interest. Whether they can do or so whether they can do so or not is examined by lakhs of examiners, their voters, after every 5 years. Even if education was relevant, it should be left to the people to decide how much importance they give to educational qualification. In our country, putting an educational qualification would go against the spirit of democracy for yet another reason. It would mean depriving a majority of the country's citizens the right to contest elections. If, for example, a graduate degree like BA, BCom, or BSc was made compulsory for candidates, more than 90% of the citizens will become ineligible to contest elections. Election campaign. The main purpose of election is to give people a chance to choose the representatives, the government and the policies they prefer. Therefore, it is necessary to have a free and open discussion about who is a better representative, which party will make a better government, or what is good policy. This is what happens during election campaigns. In our country, such campaigns take place for a 2 week period between the announcement of the final list of candidates and the date of polling. During this period, the candidates contact their voters political leaders address election meetings, and political parties mobilize their supporters. This is also the period when newspapers and television news are full of election related stories and debates. But election campaign is not limited to these 2 weeks only. Political parties start preparing for elections months before they actually take place. In election campaigns, political parties try to focus public attention on some big issues. They want to attract the public to that issue and get them to vote for their party on that basis. Let us look at some of the successful slogans given by different political parties in various elections. The Congress party led by Indira Gandhi gave the slogan of Garibi Hatao, remove poverty. In the Lok Sabha elections of 1971, the party promised to reorient all the policies of the government to remove poverty from the country. Save Democracy was the slogan given by Janata Party under the leadership of Jai Prakash Narayan in the Lok Sabha election held in 1977. The party promised to undo the excess committed during emergency and restore civil liberties. The left front used the slogan of land to the tiller in the West Bengal Assembly elections held in 1977. Protect the self-respect of the Telugus was the slogan used by N.T. Ramarao, the leader of the Telugu Desam Party in Andhra Pradesh Assembly elections in 1983. In a democracy, it is best to leave political parties and candidates free to conduct their election campaigns the way they want to, but it is sometimes necessary to regulate campaigns to ensure that every political party and candidate gets a fair and equal chance to compete. According to our election law, no party or candidate can bribe or threaten voters, appeal to them in the name of caste or religion, use government resources for election campaign, and spend more than rupees 25 lakh in a constituency for a Lok Sabha election or rupees 10 lakh in a constituency in an assembly election. If they do, if they do so, their election can be rejected by the court even after they have been declared elected. In addition to the laws, all the political parties in our country have agreed to a model code of conduct for election campaigns. According to this, no party or candidate can use any place of worship for election propaganda, use government vehicles, aircrafts, and officials for elections, and once elections are announced, ministers shall not lay foundation stones of any projects, take any big policy decisions, or make any promises of providing public facilities. Polling and counting of votes. The final stage of an election is the day when the voters cast or poll their vote. That day is usually called the election day. Every person whose name is on the voters list can go to a nearby polling booth, situated usually in a local school or a government office. Once the voter goes inside the booth, the election offices, the election officials identify her, put a mark on her finger, and allow her to cast her vote. An agent of each candidate is allowed to sit inside the polling booth and ensure that the voting takes place in a fair way. Earlier, the voters used to indicate who they want to vote for by putting a stamp on the ballot paper. A ballot paper is a sheet of paper on which the names of the contesting candidates along with party name and symbols are listed. Nowadays, electronic voting machines (EVM) are used to record votes. The machine shows the names of the candidates and the party symbols. Independent candidates to have their own symbols allotted by election commission. All that the voter has to do is to press the button against the name of the candidate she wants to give her vote. Once the polling is over, all the EVMs are sealed and taken to a secure place. A few days later, on a fixed date, all the EVMs from a constituency are opened and the votes secured by each candidate are counted. The agents of all candidates are present there to ensure that the counting is done properly. The candidate who secures the highest number of votes from a constituency is declared elected. In a general election, usually the counting of votes in all the constituencies takes place at the same time. On the same day, television channels, radio, and newspapers report this event. Within a few hours of counting, all the results are declared and it becomes clear as to who will from the next government.